Welcome to Murder.
And everything else.
My name is Joy.
And my name is Cheryl, and Joy and I are two old friends who are going to talk about murder and everything else.
Happy Sunday!
Yoo-hoo!
This is a quick reminder that this podcast is not for kids.
Nope. It's also not for some adults.
That's right. Welcome back to our listeners. It is fall here in the great Southeast. However, it's really fucking hot in Arizona, apparently.
Yep. Still has not left. I recall last year I made a mental note that it wasn't until the second week of November where it was consistently nice. Because what's happening right now is, at least after dark, it's nice and cool, and the mornings are cool, but it's still heating up in the middle of the day. So I remember it wasn't until the second week of November that it was actually fall weather.
Wow.
For the whole
but at least you do get fall weather,
Yeah.
You just have to wait a little longer.
A lot longer than the rest of the country.
Yeah, and I will tell you that I have the reverse feeling, like when people are posting pictures of spring, usually it's around the beginning of March. We're still very heavily locked into winter here, and I get really angry through the whole month of March because it's freezing. And I just want to take those pictures and throw them in the trash.
Yeah, I can see that's how I feel about summer or fall.
Yeah, but we something happened in the last week, and that is all of our leaves have changed color. So things are really beautiful right now.
I bet.
Things are not as green as they are. They're now like yellow and golden and red and brown and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, it's very, very pretty, and then it'll rain and then it'll be gone. So on that note, you want to go into your highs and lows?
Sure. I'll talk about my low first. So, I had surgery a few days ago.
Sorry.
What?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I should not have interrupted you.
Are you laughing about my surgery?
No.
No, and I'm not going to talk about my surgery. I'm not going to bore people, but I had a partial knee replacement on my left knee. That's not what I'm going to talk. My low is that I was very affected by the anesthesia, and so I was nauseous for like 2 days, and it was my low for the last week or so. But I have to say, in my next life, I am not going to have motion sickness or car sickness. If anybody has it, they understand how miserable it is, because it's like I'm like a puppy dog.
We can go on a boat in your next life.
Yeah, and I can read in the car. I mean, it's like if I'm riding with a group of people, I'm like, I gotta sit in the front. I'm gonna, if I'm not driving, I have to sit in the front, and even then, I will get car sick, motion sick. Yeah, I can't go on a boat. I can't really, be a
also
passenger.
In your next life, you will have a larger bladder.
Yes, that's the other thing. It's all these physical ailments. But yeah, it's just a bummer. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I am envious of people who can look down at their phone in the car when they're not driving, or read in the car. I get so sick. So I was very sick. I didn't even care about the pain. The only good thing about being that nauseous is it took my mind off the knee pain. But I was on so many medications that anyway, so that's my low. It's just kind of a bummer. Anybody that suffers from motion sickness can understand.
And I think that motion sickness is one of those things like vertigo that it can actually come on as you get older. So a lot of times I've heard where people will never have had an issue and something will trigger it, and then all of a sudden for the rest of their life now they have vertigo.
Yeah, because I thought about that. When I was a teenager, I mean, I remember riding in buses and I didn't have to be driving.
Yeah.
I remember taking bus rides and this and that, and I don't know when it came on, but it came on. And so I I strongly believe that that affected how I reacted to the anesthesia, but maybe not. I mean, other people I know experience nausea from it, but yeah, it's the worst. I hate it. And it does affect a lot of things, like driving. It really does. Like I have to drive Kevin when we go places. It'd be nice to be a passenger, but I either have to take something for it, or I have to drive. So anyway, it was horrible. It was those first 2 days, and I didn't want to eat anything, and which if I don't want to eat, something's wrong. And but these some of these medications you had to have food with it, and I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? It was just awful.
Yeah.
And my high is that I think I mentioned last week that it was my friend Christine's birthday, and I shared this with you, Joy, but I have to tell people, give these people a shout out, these complete strangers. So I took Christine to lunch. We went to Benihana. She hadn't been there for over 25 years, and I thought it'd be a fun place to treat her to. She her husband passed away like 7 years ago, so she doesn't have anyone to lavish her with things, and I don't think she has a whole lot of friends here. She's very involved with like her family, her parents, and her friends. Anyway, so I was going to splurge and spend money that I really didn't have, and we were having a really great time. Sitting at, if everybody knows Benihana, right, where they cook right in front of you. But we were sitting next to a couple and the wife's sister. But we all had a great time, and at the end of the meal, I got the check. The What do you call that? The bill cover, that little thing they put the check in. Anyway, and it said your neighbor has covered your bill, and
Aw.
they paid for our lunch. Christine started crying. I was speechless. I could not. I was completely speechless, but it was so nice. So shout out to, I think it was Michela and Dell. But what
Aw.
a nice thing to do. I mean, it was incredible, really incredible. And I think, what's really nice is that like there was all this goodwill, this good feeling. And even, like the server, I was talking to Kevin about it, and I said, even the server was having, because she was in on it, right? I mean, they told her to pay up for our check, and she was the one that wrote that out. You know what I mean? So she gets pulled into all this goodwill and stuff, and so yeah, it was incredible.
That is so cool.
Incredible.
I just had to say that I used to try to get you to go dancing with me every single weekend when we lived in Portland. And you would not, and you knew me and you would say no every single weekend. And you randomly just sat next to complete strangers and like made friends. So you've gotten a lot more outgoing as you've gotten older.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm totally different in that regard than I was. If
Yeah,
we
because if you had been in your 30s and these people were sitting next to you and they'd been like trying to chat you up, you would have like turned sideways so that they could have seen your back and you would have ignored them.
No, no, you know what? It's no joke. It is true.
It's so true.
If you and I met at this age, you would be blocking me. You would be
You'd be
blocking my number because you'd
you'd
be
be
like, "Good, I wish this woman would leave me alone. I don't want to go dancing. Who goes dancing anymore?"
you'd be giving me a lap dance at Benihana.
No, it's true. I had totally, completely different person than I was. Yeah, back in the day.
That's so cool though. You know what? Several times we've done this thing where you go through the drive-through and you pay for the order of the person behind you,
Mm-hmm.
which which is always kind of fun. Um and then when they drive up, you're already like you've
It's
already
taken care of.
collected your food or you're going to collect your food and they pull up and they say the car in front has paid for your order.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I think one time they waved out their window, but it's just kind of cool to feel like, you bought somebody a meal. I mean, it's not organic, but it's food is food, I think, for some people. So hopefully those people really needed it, but more than anything, maybe they also did it for somebody else and paid it
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah. It was incredible.
That's really cool.
So, what's your high and low?
Well, my low is that I got sick, and
We can tell.
I know I had all these amazing, awesome plans, like my concert, which is today at 3 o'clock, that I can't go to, and the dress rehearsal, which I always look forward to, and the practice before the dress rehearsal, and that both my kids were home because one of them, they both have winter break or fall break or whatever the hell it's called, school break, and I had all these plans. I was going to take my youngest to go get her driver's license, and we had to put everything on hold because COVID reared its ugly head, and I was flat on my back in bed, quarantined from the family, wearing a mask in the house, only allowed out the hours of like 2 in the morning to like 4 in the morning. And then I had to scurry back in. And I mean, and then like as if that wasn't bad enough, then the dog had like an abscess tumor that exploded everywhere. And then
Oh, how is she
anyway,
doing?
she's okay. She has what looks like a gigantic sanitary napkin strapped to her neck. And I've had to safety pin it because she figured out how to get it off. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just to catch the constant ooze. And for all the women who are listening to this, you know what that constant ooze is like because most likely you've all had to menstruate on a monthly basis. So that's been
Oh
fun.
my
Poor
god.
little Buzz now
Well, don't let her
menstruating
get
from her
stuck.
neck.
Don't let her get poked by the safety pin.
Well, that's funny because one of my kids said that, but I made the safety pin so it opens on the outside of the diaper on her neck, and but she's on an antibiotic because it's infected and it looks really really red and nasty, and they've scheduled surgery for a week out, a week and a half out. So I have to so I have to continually change this sanitary pad at her neck, and I have to wipe it down because they shaved all the hair around with these little like antiseptic wipes they gave me. And then I have to like follow her around and wash everything she touches because, are not like dogs are like 2 year olds. They're just like touching everything and ripping stuff off and pulling at stuff. So anyway, they're not like 2 year olds exactly, but you know what I mean. Um,
But
so
anyway, you're sick again. I think that's what we
so I'm
should name
sick
this
again.
episode.
So
Joy is sick again.
So, Tara, you're absolutely right. I am always sick. Like my friend Tara said, because she's coming out to visit. Hey, Tara. And she said, now you're you're always sick. And I don't want to get sick while I'm out there. And I was like, I'm not always sick. And then literally as I'm laying flat on my back in bed, I'm like, I am always sick.
Yeah, I was thinking the same
So
thing.
yeah,
Oh my
and
god.
so is my sister-in-law. She's like, well, I was gonna say, it feels like you're always sick. I'm like, you know what? You people are right. I am constantly sick. I am the sickliest person you'll meet. So anyway, I that's what's happening. But today I graduated to no longer having to wear a mask in the house. So yay for me. And this rolls into my high. And my
Okay.
high is that I have the best kids on the planet.
Oh
And I'm
no. Are you gonna
and
start crying?
no, I'm just so like grateful they stepped up. All their plans were canceled because all the plans that we had made to do things together, like get the license and go out to Korean food and get a haircut for one and do this with the other one and take them shopping and blah blah blah. They put all that stuff on hold and they helped out. My oldest daughter had to take her younger sister to go get flu shots on Saturday. Then she took the dog to the vet. and the younger one helped her, and they got the dog all taken care of, and they swung by the grocery store and picked up dog food because we were out because my husband's out of town. So like they really rallied, and they just made me feel like so taken care of, and it's just really nice, and continue to help by picking up the dog poop in the backyard and getting the mail and doing chores and folding laundry. It's just been so nice and helpful. So
That's so great.
shout out to all those good kids out there, and big shout out to my kids. So that's been
That's
really,
so great. You do have great
yeah,
girls.
I
Nice.
do. I do. I'm a lucky mom. Anyway, we got some updates today, guys. We are slowly and steadily increasing our subscriber numbers. So keep subscribing if you like listening to this. Um, Feel free to head over to Spotify and subscribe. And also feel free to support our little podcast by clicking on the support this podcast link. Don't worry, Cheryl and I are not really real drinkers. We don't smoke. We don't do drugs for the most part. So every little bit of support will go to help us grow this podcast and do things like buy new microphones and improve our brand.
I
So
don't do
there.
drugs at all. I just want to say
Well,
that.
I guess that just leaves half of us. But anyway, that rolls us into shout outs. Okay, guys. Very exciting. A shout out to Francoise for answering Cheryl's trivia question that she's been asking every week on loop for like 75 weeks. She did it to get you off her back. That's literally what she
Yay!
texted me. So also a shout out to my sister-in-law who told me she listens every Monday. It's part of her Monday routine. You rock, Jen. So thank you. And then a shout out to our silent listeners who don't respond and don't comment and don't post, but listen each week. We appreciate you guys too. And Cheryl,
Yes,
do you have any?
definitely.
And Cheryl, do you have any shout outs?
I do. I have one to my sister-in-law, Sandy. Kevin and I had a little Zoom call with his brother Keith and his wife Sandy. And Sandy said that they live in New York. And she said there's a local podcaster that's pretty popular out there. And she likes our podcast better. So, na, 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 na. No,
Yay.
that's
Thank
pretty
you,
cool.
Sandy. So,
Yeah, that was really
Sandy,
nice.
thank you so much. Now, remember to tell 700 of your best friends and family about this podcast. All right.
Exactly. Wait, hey, I just want to say, because people might be wondering what was the answer to the trivia question, or they may not, but I'm going to give you the answer anyway. So at the very end of our podcast, we play a credits, right? Yeah, we roll credits on what it takes to put this podcast together. And at the very end, we have a special guest that signs us off. So that was the answer. And if you want to know what it is, you got to go listen to it yourself because it's worth listening to. It's very sweet.
It's so cute. And it's the voice of a little 2-year-old that I know very, very well.
Yep. It's so
Um,
damn sweet.
it's so cute. Also, remember, we are starting a new segment called Letters from Our Listeners, and you can email us, you can post something on Instagram. So, anyway, we got an Instagram post from one of our listeners, Doreen. Thank you so much for commenting. Doreen says, so glad my son loves me. And if that changes, I hope he doesn't cut me into pieces. And side note, yes, Joy, please post your shoe buys. And also, congrats on your 40th episode. Thank you,
Oh,
Doreen.
thank you so much.
Yep.
Yay.
That's so exciting. So if you guys post on Instagram or Facebook, or if you email us at murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com, we'll include you in our letters from our listeners. So that's super exciting
It
to
is.
have
See?
some feedback from listeners. So also stand by for those feet pics, by the way. Anyways, guys, we are taking a sharp right turn and we're going to leave murder this week. And I am so excited because,
Because you don't like murder.
yeah, right. I'm so excited because this week we're going to be talking about the Golden Bachelor, and just like a gigantic spoiler alert, if you have not watched the Golden Bachelor, which airs on Hulu and I believe it's ABC, is that the network? Um, which is the Bachelor franchise, but it's the Golden Bachelor because this guy's 71, then you need to stop listening right now because we're going to be throwing out a shitload of spoilers. But we are only 4 episodes in. And the reason we're doing this is we want to talk about where the show has like gone to in these 4 episodes and also make predictions for where we think it's going to be headed. So, so anyway, I watched probably the first, I don't, I don't know about you, Cheryl, but I probably watched the first 12 to 14 episodes of The Bachelor religiously. And I'll tell you why I stopped. I stopped because the show progressively got like rapier and rapier, and also creepier and creepier because I just felt like a lot of these men and women were doing it for like social media exposure and to like grow their Instagram influencer brand. And they really weren't interested in finding love
Mhm.
because aside from a few, maybe 3 or 4 small group of 3 or 4 couples that actually married, the first couple being the first ever episode, I think it was Trista and Ryan Sutter. I mean, it was like they were just dropping like flies. I mean, they would, and it kind of turned into like a sideshow at the end where he would get down on one knee or she would get down and then ask them to marry. And then, like, literally, they would like do something weird, like all of a sudden twins would show up and they'd ride ponies away into the sunset. I mean, just dumb stuff. And it was like, I just felt like no, none of these people really care about finding love. They just want to be on TV. Um,
Well, I'm sure that's 85% of them. Are Tristan and Ryan still together?
they've been married for 20 years.
Oh, that's cool.
And I
Didn't
believe
watch it. They were just
yeah,
very publicized, so
yeah.
that's how I know the
And
names.
and they actually decided at a certain point to walk away from the publicity and just live their lives. And I thought I had a lot of respect for them for doing that, but I think they also recognized that constant, like steady barrage of being in the public eye was going to be have a taxing effect on their relationship
That's
and their
so
family.
smart. God, that's
So smart.
wonderful. Hmm.
Anyhow, the website credit for this podcast goes to Vulture Parade, Entertainment Weekly, and Google because I did do some research. Um, so let's start with episode 1.
Can I
Okay.
just say that I was never into The Bachelor? I only watched one season of The Bachelorette, um, where it was Claire and that guy, and then she left in the middle of the thing. Anyway, so I am not a Bachelor follower, but I wanted to watch this one because it's a mature Bachelor. It's a Golden
That's right.
Bachelor. So I just wanted to say that. Anyway.
That's right. So this is basically the premise of this Bachelor. It is a guy from Indiana named Gerry, but it's spelled Jerry, so it's kind of confusing. But I don't
Gerry, if anybody's wondering,
right.
not Jerry. And it was confusing the hell out of us too. Because we're really old, Kevin and I, and we have to watch things with captions. I'm just gonna
Right.
with closed caption. And it says Gerry, and they're going Gary, and I'm like, that's so unusual. Anyway.
Right.
Mm.
Anyway, I don't know if you know that there is a musical where, and I think it's Mickey Rooney sings Gary, Indiana, Gary, Indiana. Have you ever heard that?
Sounds a little familiar.
I want to say it's like the Music Man or something like that. I don't know. If anybody knows out there in listening land, drop me an
Noreen.
email. What? Noreen.
Noreen.
Noreen. Noreen's seen every movie. So Noreen, if you know the answer to if it's, I think it's Mickey Rooney singing Gary, Indiana, tell me what it's from because when I saw that this guy's name was Gerry and he was from Indiana, that's
That's what you
that's
thought.
the only thing that get pops into my head. Anyway, he is an active senior, age 71. He's retired from the restaurant and food distribution business and loves playing pickleball. He's happily married. He was happily married to his high school sweetheart, Tony, for 43 years. And together they had two daughters and two granddaughters. And in 2017, just weeks after she finally retired, tragedy struck and she passed away unexpectedly after a short illness. He isn't looking for someone to replace her, sounds like nobody could, but has the dream of finding a second true love.
That
So
was so
that's,
sad because he bought her dream house and then she passed
yeah.
away. That was so sad.
Yeah, it's very, very sad because, you know, when we think about growing old with somebody, we don't necessarily think about, the what tragedy will do. We think about actually growing old. And one of the things that he said in an interview that I saw before the show started, and this was kind of what made me realize, oh my God, I'm going to have to watch this, is he said, we don't have to think about growing old together anymore because we're already there. So let's take that off the table. I just want to find somebody that I can enjoy now these days that I have right now with it, as opposed like we don't have to go through the process of growing old together. And it kind of resonated because we do think of like, a lot of people think about like, oh, when we retire and then we'll have like a little more time to spend together. Well, what happens when all of a sudden the rug's pulled out from under you and you don't have that time with that person? Are
Right.
you gonna, like spend the rest of those years? And Gerry, I mean, he's 71, and I gotta tell you, I don't know if it's the airbrushing or what, but I mean, you tell me what you think. Cheryl, I think he looks amazing.
He does. Yeah, you can tell he's an active guy. He's
Yeah.
in shape. He has a lot of energy. Um
If you
yeah,
had to say, like, pin an age on him, I would say he looks more like he's in his early 60s,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I agree.
The other thing is, doesn't he kind of remind you a little bit of Gabe? Just because
No.
he's like tall and thin and white.
No, I don't think he reminds you of
You
Gabe.
don't?
No.
Well, I think he kind of does, looks wise. Anyway, I think
Gabe has red hair. Gabe is
Gerry
much
has kind of reddish hair. I
Oh,
think
I
they
thought it
dyed it.
was blonde.
Do you think they dyed it for the
No,
show?
Gabe is much better looking, and I don't think that Gabe's gonna be that thrilled about being compared to a 71-year-old. And you didn't even qualify it by saying he looks like Gabe in 20 years. You just
30 years. Anyway, I think that when Gabe's 71, he's going to look kind of like Gerry.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's what I mean.
That's we're
Like,
gonna okay.
but I think that like when you're real thin like Gerry, and Gabe's very thin too and
Mhm.
very tall, I think that maybe you just carry your age differently. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no, I know. That's the other thing. Besides not having motion sickness and a small bladder, I am going to be tall and thin in my next life.
I thought you were going to say you're going to look like Gerry.
I'm gonna be a tall, thin, pickleball playing white guy.
Well, anyway, I feel like Gerry looks much younger than his 71 years. And also, what do you feel about his energy? Like, I feel like he has the worst kind of energy. Like he just I know this sounds really awful, but in the first episode and the second episode, I don't even remember Gerry because he's so like kind of blah. He's like boring and boring. He's like, if you look up the word boring in the dictionary, it's a picture of Gerry right next to it. He's so dull.
Um, well, oh, so you don't mean energy as an energy, because he's got a lot of energy. You mean
No,
that,
he
yeah,
has, you
his
can tell he has,
personality.
yes, he's just so blah.
Um, well, I will say this, and this goes for all the episodes we're going to talk about. You know, there's hours and hours of footage of them, and it's cut down into 52 minutes or whatever it is. So we don't get to see any more than they show us. So we don't really know. That's all they're showing us. Plus,
Yeah.
I mean, what do you expect him to do? He's a
Well,
nice, tall, thin, nice guy, pickleball playing,
I
nice
feel
guy.
like I feel like they picked him because he looks good on film and because he looks young for his age.
Well, of course, they're not
And
going to pick somebody unattractive and old. They put out, they're like looking for unattractive, very old people who look much older than their age to be the bachelor. No, I also think it's the story.
like we're looking for 90 to 110. If you have an email address, reach out and let us know. I mean, here's what I think. Okay, so the first episode, they do the thing where 22 women get out of like, whatever the limos. A couple of the women get creative. One comes up on a motorcycle. That's Faith. And I feel like Faith, I got to tell you right off the bat, I feel like Faith really sparked his interest because of the motorcycle. Also, didn't someone ride a horse?
Faith is a Faith is a motorcycle riding, horseback riding
Yeah,
phenomenon. She plays the guitar, and
right.
she got okay. You already said this. You need to stop here if you don't want to hear any spoilers, because
Yeah,
she got the first impression rose. So
right.
she made
And
an impression with that for
yeah,
sure.
and I have to say that the entrances for some of the women was so fun because one, they're kind of poking fun of at the franchise, but also they realize that for the first time ever, and I thank the producers of the show for actually doing this. The women are aged 60 to 78 or 76 or something like that. So they picked women that were in the corridor of age appropriateness for a 71-year-old man. I appreciate they even picked women that were older than Gerry because one of my complaints a lot of times is they will pick for the bachelor, they'll pick these girls that are 23 and it'll say like Instagram influencer and it's like I don't really think, and no, neither does anyone else watching this, that that girl wants to really get married,
Right.
you know? And also, they don't pick girls who they don't pick men and women who look like average human beings. They pick, they pick the creme de la creme. And I will also say that, like, while I support everybody's decision to have whatever surgeries and whatever, there's a whole lot of faceless and Botox and like fillers and stuff in this show. And yeah, it's a little bit hard to think of myself as being in my 80s. Am I going to really have spent that much money on re, like shaping the way my face looks? I don't know.
Yeah, well, going back to the age, I mean, I don't know about the other bachelors, because like I said, I didn't watch it. I'm sure, like you said, some of them were 23, and what, the bachelor was in his 30s? Is that what it?
Yeah.
So, okay, so they did do 10 years younger. Because I was telling Kevin when we were watching it, I said I don't think it's fair that they put in people that women that are 60. That's quite a jump. Like, I don't know. I just don't, because the 60-year-old women are obviously going to be look a lot different, a lot younger. This sounds stupid, but they're going to look a lot better, for I don't know, lack of a better word, than the ones that are in their 70s. So I don't
Yeah,
know. I
it's
don't.
true because but I will also say that one of the things that really jumps out at you is that everybody ages differently. Some of the women are look significantly older than some of the other women, um and they're not, and they're even younger.
Mhm.
So I don't know, like, so episode 1, you get to know the women. You can tell that they have a very lengthy cocktail hour. The sun has come up when they're having their first rose ceremony. I don't know about you, but the first thing that hit me was I can't stay up past a certain time. What makes you think that a room full of people who've got 10 to 30 years on me are going to literally stay up? Okay, not 30, but 10 to 20 years on me are going to stay up until the wee hours of the morning to decide on a like to let a guy hand out roses. I mean, give me a freaking break. I mean,
Maybe
they
they
must have
had nap
had
time.
I was gonna say they must have had beds laid out all over that place so those poor women could catch a cat nap.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Kimmel's aunt Chippy, who's
Oh,
like
so
85 and
funny.
sacked out in the other
Oh
room. I
my
mean, that was
God.
the creme de la creme because she's like snoring away in another room. I'm like, it's like cruel and inhumane. You can't make those women stay up all night. That's just ridiculous. I mean, come on. Anyway, 6 of the women in the first episode, and it seems kind of unfair. 6 of the women are eliminated at the end of the first episode, and Gerry cries. Okay,
Gary. Get
Gerry.
it right.
See, but the thing that stood out to me the most was one: how are you going to get to know 22 women at in literally less than 24 hours and eliminate 6? And why is Gerry crying? Okay. So just remember the crying as we continue
It's a
through the
it's a
show. Okay.
common theme.
Right.
Well,
So
I think that maybe I think the first one, it's understandable to get really emotional because all these people are here for. Well, I don't know.
Cheryl,
I know
he
half of
hasn't
them.
even gotten to know them.
No, but
He
I would
probably
think.
can't even remember their names.
Well, but I'm thinking, these women came here for me, and now I have to eliminate so many of them right off the bat. But then at the same time, most of them are probably there just to be on TV anyway. So I don't know. Anyway,
Well, here's what I will say. The first woman who got out was her name Edith? She was drop dead gorgeous.
no, she wasn't dropped on the first show.
Oh, no, no, the first woman who got out of the limo
Oh,
in the
oh,
first episode.
yes, no,
She was
yes,
drop
no.
dead gorgeous. She looked like a model.
I
And
noticed her from the start. I'm like, she is
yeah,
so pretty.
and Cheryl said to me, they are having to recruit someone. Did you say that to me? Or is this my ADHD kicking in? They have to recruit somebody for the next season of the Golden Bachelorette,
Yeah,
which is true.
that was
You
my
said it to
prediction.
me.
Yes,
I
it was
remembered.
someone. Remember, everybody, my name is someone.
Someone someone named Cheryl said this to me and I remembered, so yay for me. Obviously the COVID is not working. But anyway, she
Yeah,
probably will be
the Golden
appointed as being
Bachelorette.
the Golden Bachelorette.
That's what
And
I think.
honestly, she was drop dead gorgeous.
Hmm.
But I thought it was so interesting that she was the first person that they dragged out of the limo.
Yeah, because I
Um
mean, so pretty.
right. So that and also the other thing I just wanted to say is the thing that became very obvious was the difference between the women who had work done and like procedures and the women who hadn't. And that's not to disparage women who've had work done. I mean, if you want to have work done, but just know that, like, I mean,
That Joy can tell. Just
I can
know
tell.
that
Uh,
Joy can tell.
my
All the Joys
untrained,
out there, they can tell.
yeah, my untrained, unprofessional eye can tell. Okay, moving on to episode 2. The first date, so each episode, one chick gets a one-on-one date with Gerry, and the rest of the women have to go on what's called a group date. And so the first date goes to Teresa. And for those of you who are watching, Teresa is the very teeny tiny woman with dark hair. She's very teeny tiny. And so Gerry has to drive a convertible in Southern California, and he's in the slow lane with like literally trucks barreling past. And I happen to know in California that the trucks can only go a certain speed, as opposed to like Arkansas and North Carolina where they go like 90. And so the trucks are going like 65, which means Jerry's probably driving 40 in the slow lane. And the only thing he can say is that I've heard a lot about California drivers. And I was like, oh, I was trying so hard not to roll my eyes, but my eyes were flipping back in my head. Also, thumbs down to the producer who thought that a convertible ride was a good look for a 70-year-old woman who just did her hair and makeup.
Exactly.
Like, seriously? I'm in my 50s, and if someone said, you're going on a first date with a guy, and you're both widows or widowers or whatever the fuck it's called, and you're going to put all this makeup on and get in this convertible, I'd be like, no, I'm done. Give me a hat or some kind of like head covering scarf, or I'm not doing it. And I have the easiest hair on the planet that doesn't really rat or tangle. It's just straight. So she, of course, she looked like she stuck her finger in a light socket. Her lipstick was everywhere. I mean, I don't know. Did you feel like that was just like a huge fail?
Oh no! As soon as they got on the free, okay, if you're gonna go like through the streets, just moseying along, fine on a nice summer evening. But they were on the freeway, and I said that to Kevin. I was like, "Did you ever see Terms of Endearment when Shirley Jack Nicholson takes her on a
No.
date to go to dinner, and she has a hairpiece, and she had a scarf, Joy, and by the time she got to the restaurant, she looked like she had gone through the car wash. And she looked in the bathroom and she looks in the mirror. And she was gonna try to like fix herself up, and she just has this defeat, she's defeated, and she takes the hairpiece and she throws it in the trash.
Oh my God, that's
No,
hilarious.
every man out there, do not take a woman who's dressed.
Yeah.
If she's got her hair in a ponytail, she's got a baseball cap on because you guys are going to go to the beach or play miniature golf, fine. But do not take them to dinner or anything where she looks like she has done her hair and makeup in a convertible. It's just
hilarious.
Even his hair was flying all over.
Also, they kept saying that the lights weren't working on the convertible, but there were times where you could see the lights were working. I was like, also, don't send 2 70-year-olds out in a convertible on the Santa Monica freeway.
Oh my God.
Like, and he's from Indiana, and who the hell knows where she's from? I mean, first of all, they had to have felt like they were like going downhill with no brakes, because they both looked terrified.
They did. And everyone was honking at them.
Yeah. Also, you know that there was probably a lead car with producers and film crew and blah, blah, blah in front, and producers behind with film. And they're probably like, everybody probably knew they're filming something. So they're honking because they're like, get the hell out of the way. I mean, I've seen comedians in cars drinking coffee, so I know how it works when you film car scenes. Like there's a protocol. So it's like, I don't know. Anyway, one thing that you do find out though is that Teresa and Gerry have similar stories. They're both married for years, over 40 years, to someone that they met young, like high school sweethearts. And they're looking for someone to continue their golden years with. So they seem compatible on paper. And I felt like they seemed compatible also, on the screen. Um, so that worked out really well. But I gotta say, the flash mob, don't stop believing. I literally was like kind of cringing and
Yeah, I
like
know. I did too.
squirming, and then I realized that all of the dates that these people are going to go on, well, I'll talk about that later. I just had to say the dates are so not memorable in my mind. The one-on-one dates are supposed to really be fun, like they're supposed to shoot them out of a cannon and they're supposed to go, like hang gliding and jump out of airplanes and shit like that. And instead, I feel like they're sitting on a porch rocking. And then, of
Well, it
course, I
is
realized that he's 71, so they're not going to shoot him out
exactly.
of a cannon.
It's the Golden
But,
Bachelor. So all of those are on
right,
the do not do list. They don't want
right.
anybody to break a hip on the show.
Anyway, the group date was a hot mess. It was everyone else. The women had to put on wedding dresses and have a photo shoot. I felt like it was ridiculous. There was more crying. I was like, some of the women, one of the women started crying because she had not worn a wedding dress since she got married when she was 18. I'm surprised she could remember what she was wearing when she was 18 because I can't remember anything I wore when I was 18.
Well,
But
that was
I,
Nancy. Well, let me just give a little more detail. So they had all these clothes out on a rack, and they weren't all wedding dresses. They had different themes, like hippie from the '60s, and they had different theme, and they had like three wedding dresses, I think. And so that's when I noticed Nancy. I think Nancy is as pretty as Edith, but I hadn't noticed her before that. But she was the one that it really like triggered her to when she got
yeah,
married. Anyway, so go ahead. So she got
well,
emotional.
she was crying, but I don't know. I felt like, and I
Joy does not like crying, you
I
guys. Do
don't
not
like
cry.
I don't like crying. So season 2 again, not memorable. And I will say it wasn't
Episode
until
two. Episode
sorry,
two.
episode 2. It wasn't until episode 3, Cheryl, that I felt like the show actually started to like pique my interest.
Okay, wait. Do you miss something in episode two?
No, no. Well, I'm just saying like as I'm
Oh,
rushing
okay.
ahead. But
Okay.
what do you so how do you feel at the end of what am I missing in episode 2?
Natasha, you got to talk about her.
Oh yeah. I love Natasha, okay? So, so this is at the very end when they eliminate 3 ladies at this episode. So remember we lost 6 from the beginning, first episode, and 3 from this one. But Natasha says at the end, um, after she's been cut and she's walking out of the mansion, she says, y'all need to have the rose ceremony in chairs. She's all, because I can't be standing all those hours in these shoes dressed like that. I was dying. She was so funny and so authentic. I
And
was like,
so accurate because I'm like, you know what? I
uh
think
huh.
I would need a chair too and a nap.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Chair and a nap or some slippers or something. I mean, I started thinking about also wearing those dresses.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
some of them look like Scarlett O'Hara in
Gone
Gone
with
with
the
the
wind.
Wind. I mean, they're literally wearing like these form-fitting like evening gowns. Stay tuned for the evening gowns. Anyway, so how do you think that Gerry is coming across to the women by the
Gary?
end? Gary, Gary is coming across to them by the end of season episode
Okay.
2.
Well, they're all vying for him. I even the ones that I feel like wouldn't really be interested in him off camera.
Right?
I think they just look at him as a really nice guy.
Why does he cry so much? I mean, seriously. So I saw an interview with him when right before this show aired, and I have to tell you, Cheryl, that he ends huge spoiler alert. You know that he has this huge smile on his face, and they're like, we are so excited to watch a show, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, so And he said it was like, I don't know, Regis and Kathy Lee or some show like that. Are Regis and Kathy Lee still on TV?
That's a no. Regis and Kathy Lee are not on the air anymore.
Okay, well, I saw on something and he had a huge smile on his face and he said, I am the happiest and luckiest man on the planet because I am in love. So he does fall in love with someone and end up with someone. So it's not a farce for him, which makes me happy to know that like he actually found someone, because at this point every spoiler for like episodes that are going to come, the man is literally sobbing like a 6-year-old who's been bullied on the playground. I mean, he is constantly in tears. And I just can't. I literally am like, also, I just want those of you who are listening to this to know that I have forced my 16-year-old daughter to watch this with me. She spends most of the time with her face covered because she says she can't watch them make out. So it's very entertaining. Anyway, at the end of episode 2, 3 ladies are eliminated. And I am going to start talking about the women now in episode 3 by name. Okay. So episode 3 is called the Zip Your Lip episode. And I feel like this is the episode where the show actually starts to take off. And it's no longer super boring. And I'm no longer just like rolling my eyes from one crying episode to the other. I felt like the first 2 episodes were like pulling teeth. They were painful. But the group date is a talent show, which for the most part is fun and interesting because some of the women really bring it. Like, you know, there's like a stand-up comedy routine with oh fuck, what's her name? Anyway, it's that really like super like the black lady with the guns. She literally has the arms of a 30-year-old. She's 75.
That's the one
no, they kick Natasha off in episode 2.
Oh,
it's Sandra, yeah, and she ends up like eating ice cream and getting IBS when she's playing the Never Have I Ever game. But anyway, I gotta say that Leslie does a sexy dance in this where Gary's sitting in a chair and it's just like, girl, get a room. Like, I get it, you're an aerobics instructor and like, I don't know, a jazzercise queen, but nobody wants to see you giving Gerry a lap dance in front of like all these other women. Didn't you feel like that was super cringy?
Yes, it was very cringy.
It was so cringy and so important. It would be like me introducing you to a group of friends and saying, this is my friend Cheryl. She used to be a dancer. Cheryl, give someone a dance.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so weird.
That's what turned me off to her. I mean, she's attractive. She's in shape because isn't she a aerobic instructor or something? I mean, she's very, very athletic. She's very in shape. And I know she mentioned she was a dancer, so everybody knew, right? Because didn't they cut to one of the other contestants and she was like, oh, she touched the woman's arm next to her. She was like, yeah, I think she's going to dance for him. Yeah. Now, getting up there and doing a beautiful dance, that would be great. But she had him come up with, on the stage and he sat in a chair. And yes, it was very cringy after that. It was like, that's so something cringy a 20-something-year-old would do. You know what I mean? Like, it's just in poor taste.
I was also concerned that Gerry was going to have a stroke or something or a heart attack while she was like sitting on his lap and like rubbing her butt up against his junk. I was just like, what's happening? Well,
I was like, oh, she's out. Because Gerry.
It was too gratuitous for Gerry.
Yeah, and I thought that would turn him off to that. But I won't spoil the rest of the.
Well, I think he wanted to get his paws on that junk because, anyway.
Yeah.
So I really liked Sandra's stand-up comedy routine. I thought it was so funny, and like some of the women really like brought some genuine talent, although I wish they would air the whole talent show because I'll bet you anything we would be cringing through other stuff.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Anyway, Joan wins the show. I think she was like a principal or something. She literally was like,
That poem was really cute.
yeah, the
She
poem
read a
was
poem.
cute.
She would wait, like, can I just interject? So she everyone is very nervous because she feels like she has no talent, and she's
Right.
watching, she's watching Sandra kill it with her comedy routine. She's watching Leslie, gyrating all over Gerry, and she doesn't know what to do, but she gets up there and she had written a poem that had to do with the show and finding love and all this. It was really cute, and that's the first
What?
time we noticed Joan. And so Kevin was like, it's her, it's her.
Well, I will say that one of the things about Joan that and I really do believe this, okay? Joan was very tall and picturesque, statuesque, and very like, she looked kind of like the female equivalent of Gerry. But one of the things that I have to point out is if you looked at the pictures of they showed a couple of very quick snaps of Gerry's first wife, the
Mm.
one he was married to for 45 years. And I will say this, and I will also say this in relationship to diversity, because one of the things that the show has always been on blast for is not being diverse enough ethnically and having people of color and bringing in different ethnicities. Instead, it's like, if it's a white dude, they'll have like a token black girl, a token Asian girl, and a token Latina girl. And then they'll have like 23 white girls. And I agree. There needs
Which
to be
was the
more
case
diversity.
here.
Right.
They
But
didn't
one of
have
the
no
things
Asians. They
but
didn't have
one
no
of the
Asians.
things right. But one of the things I have to point out is Gerry was married to a woman who was like a white woman with dark hair, short hair. And I will say that like the chances that he's going to fall in love with and like sail off into the sunset with a woman who looks completely different than the woman he was with for 45 years is pretty slim. He's so like, and he was married to a white woman. And so he's probably not going to marry a black woman or an Asian woman or Hispanic woman and sail off. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm just saying he's probably going to stick with what he's attracted to and what's comfortable for him. And he was with
Really?
one woman for 45 years. So I really
Can I
do
give
believe
my
that.
take on that? I
Yeah.
want to give my take on Gerry. I think that it's like, wow, I get a second chance. I'm going to try a different flavor. That's how I feel. Well, and also the only one that's there that really looks like
Flavor.
the uh, the only one that looks like kind of looks like Tony is Susan, and I don't see her.
Except Susan is very tall. I felt like Joan. Okay. I also felt like, anyway, Joan was
What
very, very attractive.
too attractive for him? She was
No,
also only 60.
she was very attractive, but I just felt like Gary's very outgoing and he's very naturally comfortable in his own skin. And she seemed more of an introvert. And maybe it was harder for her to like put herself in there. I think you have to be fairly assertive in these situations and claim time with that person. Otherwise, they're never going to
Oh,
notice you.
they're like barracudas. They're
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's like Gary's hasn't even had a chance to walk in the room, and they're like, "Hi, can I talk to you?" And they whisk him away and sit down.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Okay, anyway, go ahead.
So Leslie doesn't get the first impression rose, even though she thinks she will with her like sexy like
Lap
lap
dance.
dance.
Hmm.
So there's more tears there. Joan wins the show but has to leave because her daughter had a baby and the daughter's struggling. More tears there. But this time Joan's crying and Gary's crying. And then Ellen gets the one-on-one date and shows up dressed like Madonna in Material Girl. Some girls love me, some boys can
Wait.
be
Oh, the one with the big
bad.
bow. It had a bow on it, right?
Yeah, it was just
Wait,
like,
where did they go? I gotta look this up. Where did they go for their date?
remember they went in a hot air balloon that never left it was tethered. It's like, and I was like, it didn't even like sail away.
See,
It's like
I
it's
didn't
like
even.
the underwriters have like written, They can stand in a hot air balloon that's 16 feet off the ground but cannot float away. Anyway, this is the episode where Teresa and Kathy start to mean girl each other,
Oh
and then
God.
the fangs
Yeah,
come out,
I'm telling
and
you.
basically Teresa
Doesn't matter.
shares,
Doesn't matter what age. You're gonna have
right?
some drama.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
So Teresa shares with the women because she feels like they have a camaraderie, that she had a great time and a good connection. And other women are starting to talk about their connections and blah, blah, blah. Well, Kathy doesn't like when Teresa talks about it. So Kathy tells her to zip it.
Zip your
And
lip.
and Teresa doesn't know what's happening. So she starts crying and she goes to her bedroom, which, by the way, why did they put these women in bunk
Bunk
beds?
beds. I
Oh, for the love of God. Anyway, he so Gerry finds Kathy. Kathy fabricates some bullshit about Teresa bullying her. I'm like, if you're in your 70s and people are still bullying you got bigger problems. But she
yeah.
basically lies because she feels like Teresa needs to go home. And it's very obvious. And this is where the producers, I feel like, they tell Gerry probably to keep around a couple of like wild cards to like spice things up. I don't think he has any intention of keeping Kathy, but he's got to keep her for so many episodes because she's the wild card, and she got crazy eyes, and everybody needs a little crazy eye because it keeps the ratings there. And remember, I don't want to keep watching after episode 2 because it's so boring. So now I'm invested. I'm like eating my popcorn, literally eating popcorn, going, "Ooh, Crazy Eyes is back." So anyway, why do you think there's so much crying?
Oh, probably their knees probably hurt from
And
all that
and
standing. But wait, I want to ask you something. Okay, so
okay.
for people who have watched it while you're listening to this, you know what the drama was, right? Between Teresa and Kathy. And after it was over, I was talking to Kevin. I'm like, yes, by the way, Kevin is watching this with me.
Yes.
Um,
Is he loving
so
it?
yeah, yeah, we're enjoying it.
I couldn't get Gabe to watch it. He categorically would not watch it.
Well, I told him, I said, Joy said that Gerry cries too much. And then at the end of this week's episode, he's
It's
like, Joy.
Gerry.
Kevin goes, yeah, Joy's right.
Right? Oh
Because
my
they
God,
showed
Kevin, thank you.
the teaser for the next week, and next week's one was just a string of different settings of him crying. It's just
I saw that and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm going to have to bring the tissue.
oh my god. But okay, but just just talking about the dynamics of these two women. Okay, so Teresa is says, and it looks like she's innocently sharing, like, yeah, I felt a real connection with him. We had a great, one-on-one date. And then at one point, because Kathy went and tells Gerry that Teresa's oversharing and this and that, then Teresa's crying in her bunk bed. And Gerry comes and consoles her. And then after that, they're standing at the rose ceremony. And and then Gerry gives Kathy the pity rose. Remember when Kathy's like crying to
Right.
him that Teresa's like flaunting how her connection with him in front of her. So he like gives her a rose. So now she's secure because for the rose ceremony that night she got a rose.
Right.
So after and just like in TV fashion for the drama, when he's giving out the rose, Teresa's not getting one, right? And then there's one rose left, and then he finally calls her. And there she's standing next to Teresa. I mean, Teresa's standing next to Kathy, and Kathy's trying to play off like she's happy that she's okay with Teresa still being there. But she says, oh, he's so nice, because he gave her that pity rose, right?
Right.
And then and then Teresa goes, yes, I know, he's so nice. When he came to my bedroom Kathy goes, he went to your bedroom. You remember that? And I'm
Yes.
like, oh my God. And so after that, I was talking to Kevin. I'm like, Do you think Teresa is really that naive? And she really is just, it really feels like
No,
she's
of
just
course
sharing,
not.
or she is the most well masked manipulator. She has this.
She's Oh, she's not. I don't think she's a manipulator, but I think she's needling her. She has touched a nerve and she knows how to make her squirm. And I think by this time, all the women know who Crazy is. And so they're just fucking with Crazy,
Oh,
you
okay,
know?
yeah, because but she plays dumb really good.
Oh, she totally does.
Teresa
But,
plays dumb very, very good,
I
very
mean,
well.
girl, come like okay. So at the end of this episode, because we're getting long, Edith and Christina are sent home, and
Oh, Edith.
Joan left on her own will. But I will say that when Edith left, you realize he hasn't really forged a connection with her. And Christina, I'd never even seen before. I was like, that lady's new. It's like she just showed up that day. I was like, God damn, who's that? I've never even seen her. So
Yeah.
now we're on episode 4.
Okay.
And this takes us to where we currently are with the show. And at the end of this explanation, we're going to make some predictions. Um, Now we know who is left and who's not. The ladies that are left are Teresa from the first episode with the 101 date, Kathy, who is the black lady with the guns, Ellen, the blonde
No,
lady.
Kathy is the pity
Oh,
rose.
sorry, Kathy is the pity rose. Ellen, who is the blonde from a Material Girl dress, Leslie, Dirty Dancer, April, who fakes a ridiculous injury on the pickleball court, Sandra, the black lady with the guns, and Chris Kardashian.
Lactose intolerant.
And Chris Kardashian, who is actually Susan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Leslie gets the one-on-one date, and I gotta tell you again with Leslie, I mean, Leslie shares with Gerry that she's never been in a successful, happy relationship, which I got to tell you, I can tell you right now that Gerry definitely wanted to taste the what was cooking in the kitchen because later on in the hot tub they're making out. Which I mean, I don't blame the guy. He's got a chick in the hot tub. He's of course, and she's like a good 10 or 11 years younger than him. I mean, how's he not gonna like take that out for a spin? But I mean, I if you're and I'm just saying this, like when I was single, I dated people who had been married before, but I had no intention on marrying those people because and I'm just saying no shade, but like I dated a guy who'd been married 3 times. No shade on people who've been married 3 times, but I knew he wasn't probably good marriage material.
Well, that was going to be my comment, and I'm not judging people either. I mean, Kevin and
Right.
I are in our second marriage, but
Right.
from what
But you're on a level playing field with your spouse.
exactly?
Gerry was married once and widowed or widowered. I don't know which one it is. But um but Leslie's popping in there, with her dirty dancing moves saying, I've had failed relationships across the board. I was a single mom. I just want to be in love. And
Yes, she had
I
been
would have
married
like a
twice.
warning flag.
Yeah, and I could see it in his face that like a red flag went up because she had been single for 22 years. She said she had relationships during that time, but yeah, she was twice divorced. And I said in after the first while we were watching the first episode, I felt like he was going to end up with someone that had whose husband had passed away because will
Yep.
have that a long standing relationship where the what ended it was a person passing away, not a divorce. And maybe one divorce, but two. Like I said, I'm not judging, but I just felt it. It was like I don't think that's gonna. I think it was a red flag for him.
Yeah. Yeah. So the lady's back. Oh, and then there's this like make out sesh in the hot tub. The ladies back at the mansion are playing Never Have I Ever. And we find out that Chris Kardashian and Sandra have pretty much done it all. And
Sandra,
I'll
who was
just
lactose intolerant, she had to take
yeah.
the most
Right.
bites.
She had to eat a bunch of ice cream, and then later she misses the rose ceremony because she's probably like shitting her pants. Anyway, I was like, I did love that she like went to bed and never showed up for the rose ceremony. That just made my day. I was like, this is so awesome.
Oh, wait,
But
can I just
guys,
interject?
here's
Because you
yeah,
don't have it here. Sandra, who ends up sick in bed, she does get a rose because during the day. So sometimes he'll give out, like that pity rose for Kathy.
yeah,
So I have to say, I'm like, you're crazy, lady. Sandra missed her daughter's wedding to be on this thing. And
yeah.
I was like, really? And so he gave her a rose for missing her daughter's wedding. I just want to say that.
Okay, going back to the Never Have I Ever game, and I think that this is really important because I'm sure people watching this are going like, those sweet old ladies like had sex at work and like had sex with chicks and stuff. And it's like one of the things I do want to point out that I really, really appreciated about that game and that episode was here's the deal. Young people like to think that they have been the like the originators of all things nasty or all things racy or all things avant-garde. And the fact of the matter is anything that's being done out there, guess what? All everybody's done it. And that includes your parents, your grandparents, and all the old people sitting around at the old folks home. All that shit didn't just pop out of trees because you're young and you invented it. So maybe like think about the world as like, anything that's going to be done has been done. And I appreciated that they showed that so that people will have the realization that the sweet old lady sitting next to you on the bus or at the restaurant or in the retirement home or at church, she is a sweet old lady and she's really nice. But guess what? Once upon a time, she was 16 to 35. Like, she probably got all the freaky out of her system. But, you know, you young kids are not the purveyors of freaky. So there.
So
Just
there.
saying. All right.
Oh my gosh.
All right. We got that out of the way. Anyway, they also trotted out Trista Sutter, who's the winner of the first Bachelor episode, still married to Ryan Sutter. And so I guess they really pulled out the big guns for true love on this episode by doing that. I will say that there was much less crying on this episode. Thank God. I just was getting so saturated with all the weeping. What did you think of that quartz gift that he gave Susan?
Um, yeah, it was kind of out of left field. I don't. Did she say she was into crystal? I didn't know what the connection was. Like, it was
Oh,
weird.
she said something about something that she loved crystals, and then
She said something.
I don't remember because I'm always mesmerized one by the I don't know if they're caps on her teeth, if it's an entire set of false
Oh
teeth,
my God.
or if it's veneers. I'd like someone who's in the dental industry who's listening to this to reach out to us and let us know. Her teeth are staggeringly white and even. And when she smiles, she's a beautiful smile, but you're blinded by those teeth. And then she has a very telltale smoker's gruffness to her voice. And she looks like she comes in at about 6'4", and she bears a striking resemblance to Kris Kardashian. So
You know what? I'm laughing, but you're absolutely right.
it's true. It's true. And so and she has the most enormous breasts. And so and she's always wearing something real strappy. I'm worried that the girls are gonna pop out. And I mean, she's obviously not 25, so it's like they're not. I mean, are they real? Are they not real? What's happening? Like, I'm like mesmerized by the whole package, and she looks like she's 6'5". I don't know what's going on. So I'm just like staring, and I'll tell you that like I have this thing that I do, and my family makes fun of me, but when I see something that I can't decipher, my initial response is to stare more. And then what I do is I'll turn my head like I'm not looking, but I'm still
your eyes are still.
And my family makes so much fun of me for it because they're like, "Oh my God, Mom, stop staring." I'm like, I'm just looking.
My head's facing this way. Yeah. And they're like, but your eyes are still glued to the.
I know. Well, I just can't. I can't, like, if I were in the same room with her, I think that I would just be so, I wouldn't be able to control my staring.
Well, maybe that's why she's still around.
I
mean, what did you think of the court skit? I know one thing. Kathy was not happy when she saw it. Remember? She was like, what did he give you?
Well, remember, he gave diamond earrings to Ellen last episode. So he is giving presents to women, but I think it's also like a requirement for the show that he, like, they have these, it's like an endorsement, you know? Like, these diamonds were provided by David Yerman, blah, 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 jewelers from blah, 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 Beverly Hills. So I think it was probably more of an endorsement gift, but I mean, I didn't think he even knew who Susan was.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And she looks like she could, like, wrap her thighs around him and crush him. Right?
Yes, she does. She does. I think the courts thing was like a producer, thing. Like it's somebody on the show, or involved with the show behind the scenes. I don't know. It just seemed. Anyway,
but, like, do you think he looks like a good kisser? Because this time when he kissed Susan, they actually kind of showed that, like, first of all, I thought she was gonna swallow him whole. I thought she was just gonna wrap those lips around him, and all you were gonna see was like his toes disappearing. I mean, she just looks like she is hungry and thirsty.
Just picture yourself like kissing people on camera, and it's not like when it's staged and you're acting, then it's different, right? But you're yourself and you're kissing all these people, and he might just be very self-conscious. So I'm sitting here scrolling through the women's pictures, and it's probably denial, but I'm like, I look at like Joan and she's 60, and I see the number 60, and it seems so far ahead. It seems so far off to me. Like it's so foreign. And
like
Joy,
a year.
In less than a year, that will be it's just so bizarre. Like it's just snuck up on me. But anyway, I don't study his kissing because it does gross me out too. I don't really want to watch.
And in an episode or two, he's going to start taking him to the fantasy suite. Oh, do you really think Gerry's going to bone all these chicks that are left in the fantasy suite?
I think your daughter's going to have to sit that one out.
At the end of episode 4, Kathy and April's the one who faked her injury, and Kathy is crazy eyes, and then Nancy left too. So, wait, no, did Nancy leave?
Yes, and let me tell you, so Kevin has picked Faith. He's picked Faith too. Or are we going to talk about that? But this is exactly what happened. I like Nancy. I'm going with Nancy. And in this next second, she goes, I don't think you and I have a connection. I don't think you have a connection with me like you have with some of the other women. And he says, I won't dispute that. And so she goes, okay, bye-bye. And right after I said I picked Nancy. So I'm out of the betting game.
So heading into episode 5, the remaining women are at this point are Teresa, which is the convertible woman, Ellen, which is the Madonna woman, Leslie, the dirty dancer, Sandra, Guns of Steel, and Kris Kardashian. and Faith, who drinks from a hose. So I got to tell you, I picked Faith from episode 1 because he gave her the first impression rose. I definitely think that Dirty Dancer is going to get cut. I definitely think that Guns of Steel Sandra is going to get cut. And I hope to God that Kris Kardashian Susan gets cut. But I feel like I feel like Teresa Convertible, Ellen
Madonna.
Material Girl, and Faith Drinks from a Hose are going to be the 3 like fantasy sweet ones that he's going to have to choose from those 3 at the end.
I agree.
So, oh, you think so too?
Yeah,
but I think Faith is going to win. And I think it's because he gave her that first impression rose for a reason. And the other thing I have to say is this. Of course, Gerry is interested in beautiful women, just like every other man, red-blooded man on the, even though beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But I do believe that at the age of 71, he also could look past Kris Kardashian's melon-sized breasts. He could look past who had the tiniest waist. He could look past whose legs went all the way up to here with the Dirty Dancer. He could look past all of those things, and he could look into someone's eyes and see, does this person exactly, does this person make me feel like I'm home? Does this person remind me of the feelings that I had of security and safety and love and compassion and kindness that I had from my first wife? Because remember, he doesn't have to grow old with this person. He just wants to enjoy his years that he has left on this planet and the amount of trips around the sun that he's got with someone by his side who,
well,
and he's from Indiana, which means he probably also drinks from a hose.
Exactly. Well, and also, but you're talking like Faith isn't attractive. I mean, she's very attracctive, and she's 60. She's only 60.
Super attractive.
Yeah, she's only 60. She's the one that came in on the motorcycle. She rides horses. She's very outdoorsy. I'm reading here. She's a high school teacher. It just seems like she would be the one. I like Ellen, but I don't see like there's a real love connection. But I think she's looks good for him.
They also had kind of a spoiler where she's like crying again, more crying, and saying, "I'm really falling in love with you, Gerry." And Gary's crying too, which I feel like is a bad sign. And he's saying, "This is hard for me too." And I feel like maybe they want us to steer clear of Ellen, but I also feel like they want us to think that he's going to cut Ellen for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to end up with her. But Kevin made a prediction. So, like, I think that Edith's going to be the Golden Bachelorette. He thinks that Joan is going to be coming back.
Oh, you do?
He thinks that not me. He thinks that he felt like Gerry really liked her, and she had to leave suddenly, and he just thinks for the drama they're going to bring her back. I was like, but that wouldn't be fair to the women that were still there. But who cares about fair, right? We're talking about The Bachelor.
Well, he must also have some creative control, and if he doesn't have connections with any of these broads, I mean, I know for a fact that what? I know for a fact
they've been reduced to broads. The Bachelorette broads. Oh my God.
I know that on like Love is Blind, sometimes they'll like reach out to each other after the show is done airing, and they'll actually start dating someone else that they met in the pods. So maybe that could happen as well. I mean, that's happened in Bachelor history. Cheryl, I gotta say, this was a really, really fun topic. Even though we didn't talk about murder today, you know what is a crime?
What is that, Joy?
That we are out of time.
Oh, man. It always comes to that. Well, thank you for listening, everyone, and don't complicate your day. All creativity, commentary, and opinions in this podcast belong to Cheryl and Joy. Music composed and mixed by Gabe McKeon. Logo and merch created and managed by Kevin Callan. Podcast editing and advertising by Joy McKeon. Legal representation provided by John Bojezek. Please like, subscribe, follow, and listen. You can listen to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, you can find us on Instagram and YouTube, and you can email us at murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com.
Bye, fishes.